In this tutorial, I'm going to show you how to make a soldier cake topper made from polymer clay. I've made the armature using 2mm aluminium armature wire, and I'm using Super Sculpy medium polymer clay. I've rolled the paste into a sausage shape, and then I'm just going to cut it to the same length of each leg. And I'm just going to make 2 pieces exactly the same size. Then to attach it to the armature, I'm just cutting right down the centre, teasing the paste open, and then I will just press it onto the armature wire. And now to blend the joins together, I'm using a Dresden tool. It's really quite easy. The clay blends together really well. And now I'm just using my fingers to smooth out the clay, making sure each leg is even and the right shape. For the torso, I'm pressing down a rectangle piece of the clay, and then I'll just cut it to the right size for the body. And now I'll cut this piece into 2 sections. So I will fix the front to the front of the armature and then press the back against it and blend those joints together. I'm just adding a little bit of shape here, and I'm going to trim off the top of the shoulders just to slope them so they're not quite so square. This clay is quite a hard medium to work with, so if you have problems working it, one of my tips is just use a hairdryer to heat the clay, and then you should be able to model with it easier. So now I'm modelling the arms. So these are a slightly thinner sausage in comparison to the legs, and again I'm just cutting them to the same length as the armature wire, cutting through the centre, teasing it open, and then attaching it to the wire. Again, I will blend those joins. So I'm just making sure the joins are nice and neat here, so where the arm meets the torso. However, it's going to be dressed later. So this really isn't about neatness, it's just about making sure all the pieces are joined together. So now I'm bending that right arm because this soldier will be saluting when it's finished. Well, from my perspective, it's the left arm. And now I'm just forming an elbow in the other arm, just to give it a little bit of shape. So now that the main part of the body is complete, I'm going to move on to the feet. So I'm just making a little bit of space at the bottom there, and just cutting a tiny piece away. And then just trimming away some of this wire because it's a little bit too long, and we need to make sure it's hidden in the model's shoes. To finish this model now, I'm using Sculpy Primo clay. So this clay is a little bit softer than the Sculpy medium, and it's easier to work with. So I've formed the basic shape of 2 shoes, and now just rolling out some of the black clay, I'm going to create a sole by placing each shoe on top and cutting round it with a craft knife. Now to fix them onto the model, I'm just going to press the actual armature wire into the shoe, and then I'm going to tidy up on the top of the shoe. So I'll use the dressing tool just to smooth the clay over. I'm using beige coloured Sculpy Primo for the head. So I'm just forming the basic shape here of the head and the neck. Now I'll just trim away some of that neck, and then I'm going to start shaping the face. So using the Dresden tool, and then about halfway down, I'm just pressing in the area where the eyes will sit. And then I'll soften that area. To make the nose, I've rolled a small piece of clay into a teardrop shape, and then just pressing it into the centre of the face. I'm using the silicone tool just to blend that gently onto the face, and then that should eliminate any joins. And now I'll finish the nose by creating the nostrils with a cocktail stick. To start off the mouth, I'm using a mini palette knife just to press in and get the general shape, and then with the silicone tool I'm going to shape around the mouth, so just underneath, and this will help form the chin as well. And just shaping that chin a little bit more. Now to create lips, I'm using thin pieces of the clay. I've made them slightly thicker than they need to be. This is so that I can blend them into the face. So I'm just carefully blending them onto the face now, using my Dresden tool. I'm adding the top lip now, and I'll just cut that down to the correct size and blend that into the face as well, and then just add a little bit of shape to that top lip. And now just to finish those lips, I'm using the silicone tool just to smooth out any sharp lines or rough edges. I'm just squeezing the top of this wire now just to make it as compact as I can in readiness to attach the head. So I'm feeding the head onto the wire. I'm being very careful so as not to misshape the head in any way. I'm using the Dresden tool just to press into that eye area and create the eye sockets. And I'm just making a space so that I can fit the eyeballs in a moment. So just using the craft knife and cutting a little bit deeper into the clay. So I've modelled the eyes. I am using a cocktail stick because these are really tiny. It's quite difficult to get them in position with just your fingers. So the cocktail stick allows me to insert them a little bit more easily. And now I'm going to add the eyelids, so starting with the lower lids. I've rolled a very thin piece of paste, placed it on the lower part of the eyeball, and then just carefully blending that into the face. I will repeat this for the upper lids as well. So for his ears, I've started with an oval shape, place them onto the side of the head, and now I'm just going to model the features of the ear using the Dresden. Now we're not going to see all the hair because he's going to be wearing a beret, so I'm just adding pieces that will be seen. So just adding the sideburns here and creating a little bit of hair texture using the Dresden, and then placing a piece on the back of the head and then texturing in the hair detail, again using the Dresden to fix it on properly and to add the hair texture. So I've started with a ball of clay, used the rolling pin just to hollow out the centre, and then just modelled it into the shape of a beret, using my hands mainly, but also using the Dresden tool to aid the modelling. It's slightly too big, so I'm just trimming it down, and I'll just smooth over that cut edge and place it onto his head. For his eyebrows and his moustache, I've used tiny pieces of clay and press it into place, and then adding texture using the craft knife. I've modelled some clay into teardrop shapes, and then just using the craft knife again, I'm now cutting into the fingers. And then I'll just gently shape those and round each finger just to soften over the cut edges. This needs to be done carefully because the clay can be a little brittle for these small pieces, and it's quite easy to break the finger off. If that happens, you can just attach it again and use the Dresden tool and blend it into place. And I'll just add a little bit more shape now using that sharp end of the Dresden. This is a saluting hand, so I'm just going to arrange the fingers into a saluting position. And I'll cup the other hand into like a fist position. This is the end of part 1. I hope you've enjoyed this tutorial so far. In part 2, I'm going to show you how to create his uniform.